Hello everybody. So in this video I'm going to talk about the health of Elizabeth II because people have been speculating that she's dying, but she's rallied a bit. I'm talking about the Queen of the United Kingdom. She's also head of the Commonwealth, monarch of 15 other Commonwealth realms. So Her Britannic Majesty is 95 years old. You might know that in April this year, her husband Prince Philip, he expired at the age of 9 and 90. So when one spouse dies, the other one follows soon afterwards, especially, and the relationship was close. You might say that sounds silly. In all marriages, the relationship is close. Well, not necessarily. Some partners, they drift apart. They may be somewhat estranged. But these two were together all the time. I won't say every day, but seem to have had a strong marriage, with no suggestions of indiscretions on her part, and only a few rumours about him straying in the 1950s. I have no idea whether that's true or not. Anyway, the Queen was in hospital a couple of weeks ago. She's out. She had to cancel a visit to Northern Ireland, which is to mark the centenary of Northern Ireland as a distinct entity with the United Kingdom, because of course prior to that, the whole of Ireland, we were all part of the UK. But the major portion of Ireland seceded at that point. So anyway, she's been using a walking stick for the first time in several years. Now, she had an operation many years ago, which necessitated her to use a walking stick after that. But she's not had an operation recently, but nevertheless, she's using that. She's scaling back her duties. For over 10 years, she's been gradually delegating to her sons, Prince Charles and Prince Edward, to her daughter, Princess Anne, not to her other son, Prince Andrew, for reasons that one might guess, because it's just possible that he'll be offered free accommodation in the United States for decades. And he was someone who couldn't stint and would never say no to free accommodation. It was offered by Jeffrey Epstein. Anyway, so the royal family's PR team, they've not been giving particulars on her Britannic Majesty's health, because they don't want to intrude on the privacy of Her Gracious Majesty. Some things are kept confidential, because that's the medical ethics. She's chosen not to reveal these things. And they have said that in the past what she suffered, like gastroenteritis way back in 2013, led to some vulgar jokes, or that she had cataract surgery in 2018. She had to use a particular door to go to, I think it was Westminster Abbey, about a week ago, because it's easier for her to access, given that she's got reduced mobility. So people were thinking, is Her Britannic Majesty going to die? I remember a couple of years ago she didn't appear in public for about 2 weeks. Anyway, so she is not quite as gazelle-like and hale as she once was. And nobody aged 95 is in the rudest of health, so she could succumb to a heart attack tonight or something like that. So we've got to be circumspect about these things. I mean, I don't think she's dying. She's out again performing public duties. There's a magazine called The Oldie, as in aimed at old people, and it names an oldie of the year each year, and she's just been given that title, Oldie of the Year. Not that she applied for it. I don't know which criteria they got this. So they award these. So she was awarded. So she had her double vaccination against coronavirus some time ago. So what keeps people hearty late in life is being active, having plenty of friends and loving family, some sort of purpose in life, and she's got all that. Now, years ago, well, on her 21st birthday in 1947, on a visit to South Africa, she said, "I declare that my whole life, be it long or short, shall be dedicated to your service and to the Commonwealth family to which we all belong." So she was ruling out any thought of abdicating. And again in 2002, which was the Golden Jubilee of her reign, she once again excluded the possibility that she would stand aside. In recent years, a number of other European monarchs have stepped down and handed on to the junior generation. We've seen this in Spain, in Belgium, in the Netherlands, and even the papacy. The other ones, I don't think Luxembourg, I don't think that's happened, or indeed Liechtenstein. Which other European monarchies are there left? Is that it? Are there any monarchies? Well, Monaco, and the other ones, it hasn't happened. In the Netherlands, is the third time this has happened in a bit over a century, or third consecutive time. But it hasn't happened on the grounds of age. So it could be that she becomes so frail, and perhaps she might have suffer senile dementia, that regency has to be declared, and Prince Charles could exercise regal duties on behalf of his mother. A Regency Act could be passed, as was passed in 1788, when George III was ailing, when his mind was befuddled. So if the Queen is in a terrible state of confusion and there's some sort of derangement of mind, she might be unable to execute her duties, in which case her son and heir, Charles, is the Crown Prince, would have to step into the breach and be king in all but formal designation. She's 95. That's well beyond life expectancy in the UK, which is 79. Of course, she's got the best healthcare money can provide, and she eats very healthily, was taking vigorous exercise, was riding until not so many years ago. And the people around her attending her has got to give her some sort of get up and go. So she's fairly resilient considering her very advanced years. Her mother lived to 101, and some people take it as read that means that the Queen herself is going to live to 101, especially considering there have been advances in healthcare since her mother's demise in 2002. But I think that's an unsafe assumption. The oldest person ever to live was actually verified. Was that Jeanne Calment? Was that her name? That French woman who died about 1996 at the age of 122, who lived for her daily, martini and cigarette or something like that. So what keeps the Queen going, I think, is a sense of duty. She's actually quite a diffident person, as Tony Blair said. She had greatness thrust upon her, so it was actually quite unremarkable, quite placid, who didn't seek out the limelight, didn't desperately want to be in the front rank, but she was born into that position. Well, it was partly because her uncle, Edward VIII, abdicated. Although actually, even if he hadn't abdicated, if he'd reigned on and died in 1972 as he did, the Queen's father was dead by that time, in which case the Queen would have inherited it anyway, because Edward VIII had no children. He had mumps as a child, which may have rendered him infertile, capable of intercourse, but incapable of fertilizing any female. That is the Queen. Is she going to be around in 10 years' time? Almost certainly not. Is she going to be around in 5 years' time? That's dubious. Is she going to be around in 1 year's time? Probably. I think she's not quite dying, but we've had several warnings. I think a lot of people will miss her when she goes. A lot of people who don't particularly appreciate her get used to Prince Charles coming on. And so she's been the Green Queen recently, and Prince William and Kate Middleton have been releasing statements how we need to do more for the environment, expressing their frustration that we're not doing more to move towards renewable energy, which I think is a contentious thing to say. I mean, even though most people agree with that, and I agree with it, they still shouldn't be wading into this row, and they should lead by example and live in a small flat then, not live in a palace like the Queen does, and not fly anywhere. I'm glad at least they're recycling their clothes and no longer encouraging this cult of crass materialism, especially about sartorial matters, which is incredibly wasteful. So please subscribe to my channel. Please donate to me on PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. Toodaloo.